all of this, how hopeful are you for the future of your country? How do you foresee all of this playing out?
Well, let me, before I come to conclusion, one word I want to share, that this nation is not divided and won't be divided, because Taliban is not belong to one ethnic group, I think, who are fighting in the north or in the east or in the west. But I think in the bad days, Afghans know how to come together and how to get united. That's for sure. Many countries try to how divide this country, but I think they will not succeed. I think in bad days, in rainy days, we will be a united nation to work towards stability of Afghanistan and to preserve what we achieved so far. I think definitely we will have lots of political and security turbulence. This country once more, and hopefully Taliban understand and realize how to govern the future of Afghanistan, how to make this country back united and work towards develop the girls' education. And we have to realize the enemy, the permanent enemies of Afghanistan, and cut their hands from continuing a proxy war in this country.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for time. Thank you very much to all of our guests, Shinkai Karakel, Harun Rahimi and Sir Nick Kay. And thank you too for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Kim Vanel, and the whole team here in Doha. Bye-bye for now.
New Zealand's unique native birds are at risk of extinction. Will an ambitious plan to rid the nation of pests and predators save them? 101 East investigates on Al Jazeera.
We know what's happening in our region. We know how to get to places that others cannot. The fires are still ongoing. The way that you tell the story is what can make a difference.
The health of humanity is at stake. A global pandemic requires a global response. WHO is the guardian of global health, delivering life-saving tools, supplies, and training to help the world's most vulnerable people, uniting across borders to speed up the development of tests, treatments, and a vaccine, keeping you up to date with what's happening on the ground, in the ward, and in the lab. Now, more than ever, the world needs WHO, making a healthier world for you, for everyone.
Al Jazeera, wherever you are.
At a speed of 800 kilometers an hour.
Discussing a transfer of power. The Taliban and the Afghan government officials are in talks. Waiting at the gates of the capital, the Taliban spokesman tells Al Jazeera its fighters are not attacking Kabul and offers an amnesty to those who served in the government or the military. Hello and welcome, I'm Peter Dobby. You're watching Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up, more than 300 people killed after a large earthquake hits west of the Haitian capital. And we continue to follow the harrowing journey of migrants who were sent from the US to Mexico to fend for themselves. Just after 12 hours GMT, you're watching our continuing coverage of the breaking news coming to us out of Afghanistan. As it stands this hour, Taliban fighters surround the capital, Kabul, and negotiations are underway to secure a transfer of power. A Taliban delegation have been speaking with Afghan government officials directly. The situation on the ground is changing fast, hour to hour. It has intensified over the past 3 or 4 hours, with more and more provincial capitals falling to Taliban forces. In its statement recently, the Taliban said it does not want to enter Kabul by force. It's told its fighters to wait on the outskirts of the city and not to enter. The Taliban statement also called for safe passage to be given to anyone wanting to leave and for women to head to what it called protected areas. Foreign embassies have continued evacuating their staff, with helicopters seen going between those buildings and the airport. US diplomatic officials have now started working from inside the airport at Kabul, while NATO says several EU staff have moved to a safer, undisclosed location in the capital. Live now to Kabul, and our correspondent following this evolving story, Rob McBride. Rob, what else do we know about the nature of these direct negotiations going on between the Taliban and government officials?
I think the nature of the talks is really aimed at trying to find a solution that's going to be acceptable to all sides, that brings about a peaceful transition. That really seems to be the watchword at this stage. We're getting into late afternoon, early evening on what's been an extraordinary day and continues to be an extraordinary day of developments here. The fall of provinces all around the capital, Kabul, so which leaves Kabul itself pretty much encircled now, with these talks that have been going on for several hours, for much of the day, in fact. And we understand that it's going on between negotiators from the Taliban, from the government, also from the US and the presidential palace there, that whatever form of words they come up with, potential agreement, that still has to go back to negotiators, we understand, in Doha, where those formal negotiations are taking place, to see if it is acceptable and that if it will ultimately lead to a peaceful transition. But you do get there is a real uneasy tension about the city this evening. This is a city that has gone through decades of trauma of one form or another. This is, just another episode in a very long history for Kabul, but it is certainly a very significant one, because it could well lead, well, everybody expects it will lead, obviously, to a change in power, but just what form of new government we will have, just how big a part the Taliban will play in that.
You've been out and about, I know, Rob, this morning. What's the atmosphere like, and what are people saying about all this to each other?
It's a real mix. Yeah, we were out during the morning, out on the streets, and late morning we started to get indications. Throughout the night, more provinces had fallen. So when people woke up, they realised that it was that Kabul was left pretty much on its own. And then word started to spread that some fighters were on the edge of the city, and then some reports indicated that maybe some fighters were entering the city. And suddenly, you've noticed people are checking their phones more. We were starting getting messages on our phones, and there was a real palpable change in atmosphere. A real rise in tension, people who were clamoring to get money out of banks, and there has been a real run on the banks, as you might expect. They were clamoring that little bit harder. People who were going to stores to try to stock up on provisions were going about their shopping a little bit quicker. Also, suddenly there were lots of traffic jams. People were out on the street. It was a very tense times. And for a time, it did look as though there were actual soldiers in the Taliban fighters inside the city itself, in the streets. I think it was realized quite soon afterwards with these statements from the Taliban that the instruction was from the very top that the fighters shouldn't come in, they should hold on the outskirts of the streets, but it certainly raised the tension level, and it was very difficult to get through the streets. It is still difficult to get around Kabul. The streets tend to be jammed. There is a lot of nervousness amongst a lot of people with weapons, and there are a lot of people with weapons here in Kabul. You have these convoys of trucks and of jeeps with heavy machine guns on the back that race through the streets and force their way through traffic, etc. They were racing that little bit faster. So there has been an increase in tension. As we get into the evening here, these helicopters continue to go. I think it's true to say that maybe the frequency of helicopters taking all sorts of embassy staff from the US Embassy to Hamid Karzai Airport, they have become less frequent as we've gone on through the day, but they are continuing still as this evacuation continues amid tensions about just what will happen next as we get into the evening.
Rob, many thanks. Rob McBride there joining us live from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Suhail Shaheen is the international media spokesman for the Taliban. He says fighters have taken most cities surrounding the capital, but they have not entered Kabul as yet.
So our forces have not entered Kabul city, and we just issued a statement saying that our forces will not enter Kabul city. We are talking and awaiting a peaceful transition of the capital city. And also there will be a special arrangement for the maintenance of security of the city, so that personal properties and other government installation offices are not harmed. The forces, they have joined us. We say they have stopped fighting and they have joined us. In all provinces, in all majority of the provinces of Afghanistan, they have joined our forces and they have attended, or they come with their weapons and everything, and their names are registered. So there will proper steps will be taken in future for how they will be embedded in the government. The people were welcoming us in all provincial centers. Our forces entered. So it is a popular uprising, and all the provinces are with us. So they should understand and know the ground realities and surrender to submit themselves to the will of the people. So that is the will of the people. There will be a government which will be acceptable to all Afghans. I think that's up to the other side team to come with tangible proposal, suggestion, which will pave way from peaceful transfer of power, and also to how would be the components of next future government.
Afghanistan's acting interior minister has delivered a statement assuring the people of Kabul that the city will stay safe.
As the Interior Minister, I am assuring you that all security forces, including special forces, have been prepared to ensure security and order in Kabul. People should not be worried. The city is secure. Anyone who is going to create disorder in the city will be dealt with strongly. The security of the city is guaranteed, and it is not going to be attacked. The agreement is that there is going to be a peaceful transfer of power to a transitional government. The security of the city is our responsibility. We will stand strongly. Do not be influenced by any propaganda. Everything is normal. Our security and defense forces are on standby to ensure stability and order. The residents should not be worried. Kabul is safe. Rest assured, there will not be any problem in Kabul.
Let's talk again to Harun Rahimi, Assistant Professor of Law at the American University of Afghanistan. He joins us on Skype from Istanbul. Harun Rahimi, you probably heard what the acting Interior Minister was saying there. He said everything is normal. Everything surely is abnormal.
Absolutely. I mean, the people I talk to and the images coming out show people who are desperate. You see despair in their eyes. Everyone is running around. They are trying to get some of their savings out. They're trying to get to their homes. There is absolutely, as you said, nothing is normal in Kabul right now. The question is, will the Taliban stay out of the city? That's question number one. They've said they will. We will have to see that. The second question is, will Kabul remain safe? Will the Afghan National Security Forces will be able to secure Kabul until such a time that the deal is reached? Because you have to realize that these forces are facing, they are fighting, they are basically part of the government that may not be there in a short period of time. They may feel like they're going to face revenge by the Taliban. Taliban say they have announced amnesty, but how credible that message is to the Afghan National Security Forces is not clear. And issue of securing Kabul is incredibly important. It's a city of 5 million people, a lot of bad actors, a lot of people who would like to exploit the situation. A lot of people have armored vehicles, have a lot of guns, have a lot to protect, have a lot to lose. And also a city of a lot of poor people. As you know, crime rates in Kabul has been always very high. So there are a lot of bad actors with guns who may exploit the security vacuum. So the time is running out. Whatever agreement should be reached, it should be reached very quickly.
Has the end game dynamic here changed, Harun? Not for the Taliban, because their end game always was, we want to take the country. But has the end game for the government had to change, because their end game was, we want to save the country, we want to protect the country. And in effect, essentially what we're talking about now is negotiations to give Ashraf Ghani and members of the government an exit point.
I really don't know what we mean by the government anymore. I have a hard time understanding who are the key decision makers right now. I mean, we are talking about President Ghani, and he is an actor that is going to have to hand over power in some shape or form if the transition is going to be orderly. I don't know how important his views are. I know that we know that there are many constituencies in the government who may not no longer align with the government. They may have their own views. They may try to make their own deals with the Taliban. It's a very murky picture. I'm sure. The reports coming out show that the United States, Khalilzad, is trying hard to get a deal, and as well make sure that the evacuation of the U.S. embassy and the U.S. interpreter, the people who work with the U.S. goes unharmed, because there is a fear the Taliban may attack those efforts. For me personally, what the end game has changed, yes, absolutely. The leverage of anti-Taliban camp has disappeared. There is really nothing left in terms of the leverage of the President Ghani on his allies or other anti-Taliban elements who were supposed to resist the Taliban takeover in Mazar-e-Sharif, in Herat, and other places. They have no leverage. The Taliban have all the leverage, but if they have foresight, they will agree to hand over the power to an interim authority that is neutral, that can facilitate the movement towards an inclusive government. If Taliban take over unilaterally and without an interim government, or an interim government that is just going to be a proxy for Taliban rule, that would mean they will control the process of creation of the future political system. That political system will not be seen as legitimate. I think the parallel with 2001 would be instructive to think about the Bonn process. Taliban saw Bonn process and the government that came out of it as imposed militarily. US was then the military power that held all the cards. And they saw that government, the process would exclude the Taliban because they were defeated. There was no incentive to include them. Now, if the same happens, if this time anti-Taliban elements are excluded by the Taliban, who hold all the cards, I'm afraid we may be actually at this moment again. The government that will come out will be seen as imposed to military force by many, and many will fight to resist it if they are not included in the process. So I think for the sake of domestic legitimacy, as well as international legitimacy, Taliban should show foresight. They should absolutely hand over the power to ask the government to hand over power to an interim authority that is neutral and that can actually facilitate meaningful discussions for creation of an inclusive political system.
Okay, thank you so much again, Haroon Rahimi there, talking to us from Istanbul. Well, the armed group's also taken control of every major border crossing in the country. The last to be seized was the crossing at Torkham, one of the biggest gateways between Afghanistan and Pakistan. For many, Kabul airport is becoming the only escape route, but few have the resources to use it. We'll keep you across all the developments, of course, as to what's going on in and around Kabul. We'll also cover this story. Zambia's opposition leader takes the lead to become president as Edgar Lungu trails behind. It helped bring more than 1 million people onto the streets of Hong Kong 2 years ago. Now a leading pro-democracy group is disbanding itself.
We've been awarded the world's best airline of 2021, but it's more than an award for being the only global airline to continue through the pandemic, and for all the hours of hard work we dedicated to making your experience exceptional, and flying the youngest, greenest fleet in the sky. More than an award, it's a responsibility to continue to provide the very best for each and every one of our customers. Qatar Airways, you can rely on us.
The US is pulling the last of its troops out of Afghanistan after a 20-year-long war, but the conflict is far from over. The Taliban is on the offensive, claiming provinces that were held by the Afghan government. Despite international mediation efforts, what does the future hold? Special coverage on Al Jazeera.
We understand the differences and similarities of cultures across the world. So no matter what moves you, we'll bring you the news and current affairs that matter to you.
Each and every one of us has got a responsibility to change our personal space for the better.
This is the people's will, and we won't accept dictatorship ever again.
We have to fight for justice and peace.
If we could do this experiment, and if biodiversity could increase just a little bit, that would be worth doing. Nobody had any idea that it would become a magnet to all these incredibly rare species.
They are asking for women to get 50% representation in the Constituent Assembly here in Chile.
These people pick up, they collect, they segregate, they sell, they recycle. This is an extremely important service that they provide to the city.
We need to take America to trying to bring people together, trying to deal with people who've been left behind.
Welcome back. 17, almost 18 minutes past the hour. Your top stories so far today. Taliban fighters have surrounded the Afghan capital, Kabul, with negotiations underway to secure a transfer of power. A Taliban delegation is speaking with Afghan government officials. The Taliban says it doesn't want to enter Kabul by force. It's told its fighters to wait on the outskirts of the city and not try to enter. Foreign embassies have continued evacuating their staff, with helicopters seen going between those buildings and the airport. US diplomatic officials have now started working from Kabul airport. In other news, people in Haiti are scrambling to pull survivors from collapsed buildings after a powerful earthquake. It struck about 160 kilometers west of the capital, Port-au-Prince. More than 300 people are known to have died, but that number has been climbing quickly. Katia Lopez-Hodigan has the latest.
In mountains of rubble, Haitians look for survivors. Within moments, businesses, homes, and lives all shattered by the magnitude 7.2 earthquake. The damage is devastating, especially in a country that's already suffered so much from the last earthquake in 2010 and its recent political and security breakdowns. With hospitals overwhelmed in hard-hit cities like Jérémie and Les Cayes, some victims were taken to the capital, Port-au-Prince, for medical assistance. Rescue teams say there have been unforeseen challenges. A landslide triggered by the earthquake blocked major roads, and humanitarian workers say gang activity just west of the capital is also complicating efforts.
A lot of damage was caused by this earthquake. People in the capital don't know what is happening in the city of Les Cayes. It is devastating.
Haiti is still struggling to come to terms with the assassination of its president last month and a worsening COVID-19 pandemic. The prime minister says he's rushing aid to the affected areas.
We're calling for a lot of support. And we're leaving that report slightly early. The gentleman you're now looking at is the acting defense minister working with the Afghan government. Let's get a sense of how he views the events of today.
Afghan National Security Forces, as you are all aware, there was a meeting between the elders and the Afghan president, and the Afghan president delegated all powers to these elders. They want to talk to the Doha-based delegation so that there's an agreement. Before that kind of agreement, I can assure all of you that the security of Kabul is going to be ensured. We are all ready, the people, your forces, to defend Kabul. Some elements, some enemies of the Afghan people are propagating in order to make the people worried. On behalf of the Afghan government, on behalf of our national security and defense forces, I would like to assure you that until this agreement, this peace is reached, the security is ensured. Rest assured.
And that's the latest from Ismail Mohammed, the acting defense minister working with the Afghan government. He was kind of finessing, I guess, what we were hearing from the interior minister just in the past 2.5 or 3 hours, saying that the city of Kabul, not the province, the city of Kabul is safe. The people of Kabul are safe. All our guests over the past, 5-6 hours here on Al Jazeera English making the same point, that Kabul is especially significant, not because it's just the capital, but because it is by far Afghanistan's biggest city. It is home to 5 million people. There are questions clearly that need to be asked off the back of that soundbite from the acting defense minister vis-a-vis how dependable, how trustworthy the Afghan military forces are, because some of them have basically been, we are being told by various reports from the provincial cities that the Taliban have taken, they have been co-opted into being or working with the Taliban. That's just claims. Those are reports. We can't substantiate it. But we're also being told, and one of the defining aspects of the events of the past week or so has been the way that the Afghan military, certain members of the Afghan military have either just decided to go home or they've been told, reportedly, to go home. We'll drill down into the significance of that clip, that interview with the acting defense minister through the coming hour here on Al Jazeera. We'll move on. Zambia's opposition leader, Hake Inde Hichilema, has taken the lead in his 6th attempt to become president. The incumbent, Edgar Lungu, is trailing behind by hundreds of thousands of votes. The final results of Thursday's presidential election are expected in the coming days. The president's opponent has criticized his management of the economy, which was badly hit by the COVID pandemic. Harumatasa's in Lusaka. She has more now on the incoming election results.
Results from some of the other constituencies are being announced on Sunday, and people are being told to just wait and see, because when these other results come in, it could tip the balance. President Edgar Lungu has said he felt that the elections were not free and fair in 3 provinces. These are opposition strongholds. He says some of his people there were attacked by the opposition. At least 1 person was killed. And he said voting had to be disrupted. Some senior officials in the governing PA party came out and said, also remember that these are just 3 provinces. There are 7 other provinces, and they're confident that Lungu will win this election. International election observers have said that voting day was largely peaceful. The problem was during campaigning, where they say that opposition parties weren't allowed to access some parts of the country. Outside the opposition party headquarters, some of the people who support Hakainde Hichilema are confident that he is going to win. Election officials have said that they'll carry on counting. They hope to announce results by Sunday. If there are delays, it could be Monday or maybe even Tuesday. They said the reason why it's taking so long is because it's manual counting. They want to make sure everything is done properly. They've said they don't want Zambia to turn around and say that the commissioners are the reason why Zambia was set on fire, because they didn't do their job properly.
A prominent coalition of pro-democracy groups in Hong Kong is disbanding. The Civil Human Rights Front helped organize huge rallies 2 years ago. In a statement, its leader said Beijing's sweeping crackdown on dissent in the city had left their movement with little future. Amnesty International says it's a worrying sign and that other groups will likely follow suit. Tom Grundy is editor chief and founder of the Hong Kong Free Press. That's an independent publication. He says the disbandment of the Civil Human Rights Front is part of a growing trend.
The Civil Front said that there is a point in their statement today. They said that they want other groups to keep their beliefs, remember their original intentions, and support civil society. But that civil society does appear to be crumbling. There appears to be this domino effect, and coalitions like the Civil Front dissolving. This comes just 5 days after the biggest union, 48-year-old Hong Kong Professionals Teachers Union, also crumbled under pressure. But we've had some months of questions over whether the Civil Front was ever even a legal organization. It hadn't registered, seemingly, the authorities say, as a society. It's been through the meat grinder of the state-run press, which is usually the first sign of trouble in recent months for these groups. And on Friday, the police chief told a state-backed newspaper that they may be liable for some of their protests under security law. And of course, the odd thing about that is that the security law was enacted last June, and the Civil Front hasn't organized any protests since then. Chief Executive Carrie Lam actually told the UN that this law would not be retrospective. So it's going to be curious to see what the authorities will lay against the Civil Front, this now defunct group.
The UN's Refugee Agency and other human rights groups have condemned the US for flying migrants and refugees to southern Mexico. From there, they're taken by bus onto and into Guatemala as part of an effort to deter undocumented people from crossing into the United States. John Holman has that story from the Mexican border with Guatemala.
They're being ushered back into their own country, but it isn't a happy homecoming. Just a few days ago, these Guatemalans were in the United States. Now they've been turned back. First, US authorities flew them deep into southern Mexico to try and prevent them crossing the border again. Then Mexican authorities bussed them further back into El Carmen, a Guatemala border village. There's a mixture of confusion and disappointment here.
They sent us back here without signing deportation papers, without asking us anything, not even the address where we were going. They just had us 4 days in the cooler, in cold rooms. And then they sent us back to Guatemala just like that.
It's all happening under a US health provision called Title 42, being used in the pandemic to turn back migrants without allowing them to ask for asylum. Now they've been dropped here, even though they don't really know where here is.
I don't really know this part of the border.
Helen told us her family was from the Petén department. Afterwards, I found out that was a 15-hour drive away. I asked her at the time how she'd get home.
I don't know because I've got no money. They took us by surprise, just saying, go now.
The US is struggling with high border numbers and overcrowding in its facilities. It's told people not to come.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
But that's being drowned in a sea of misinformation, in Facebook forums, and from people smugglers who profit from those desperate for a better life. They charged Wilbur more than $10,000 to take him north. He was betting on reaching the States to pay that money back. Now he has to do it in a country where he can't find work.
In Guatemala, there's no money, so we go north, trying for a better future for our children. We don't have money to get them to school. Now we're coming back with a big debt, and without money or work.
He has his son, little Wilbur, with him. Wilbur's two other siblings are still stateside with their mother. We left him trying to find a way back to his home 6 hours away. It's the end of the flights for this evening, at least. But for the people on the other side of that bridge back in Guatemala, it's just going to be the start of working out how to get home. And in many of their cases, how are they going to start paying off the amount of money that they borrowed to pay people smugglers to get them to the United States? So for them, this is far from the end. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Talisman.
Thousands of people are being told to leave their homes in the US state of Utah as a fast-moving wildfire burns north of Salt Lake City. The so-called Parley's Canyon fire was first reported on Saturday and has now burned across more than 1,000 hectares. Heavy rain has caused devastating flooding and landslides in Japan. At least 6 people have lost their lives. More than 300 households have been evacuated. The Saga prefecture, the southern island of Kyushu, has seen a record amount of rainfall, causing rivers to overflow. It's exactly 12:30 GMT. These are your top stories as it stands right now. Taliban fighters are surrounding the Afghan capital, Kabul, and negotiations are underway to secure a transfer of power. A Taliban delegation has been speaking to Afghan government officials. The situation on the ground is changing fast and has intensified during the past few hours. Rob McBride is there.
The fall of provinces all around the capital, Kabul, which leaves Kabul itself pretty much encircled now, with these talks that have been going on for several hours, for much of the day, in fact. And we understand that it's going on between negotiators from the Taliban, from the government, also from the US and the presidential palace there, that whatever form of words they come up with, potential agreement, that still has to go back to negotiators, we understand, in Doha, where those formal negotiations are taking place to see if it is acceptable and that if it will ultimately lead to a peaceful transition.
Well, in a statement, the Taliban says it doesn't want to enter Kabul by force. It's told its fighters to wait on the outskirts of the city and not to enter. The Taliban statement called for safe passage to be given to anyone wanting to leave. Foreign embassies have continued evacuating their staff, with helicopters seen going between those buildings and the airport. US diplomatic officials have now started working from inside Kabul airport. In other news, Haitians are scrambling to pull survivors from collapsed buildings after a powerful earthquake. More than 300 people are known to have died, but that number has been climbing quickly. Zambia's opposition leader, Hake Inde Hichilema, has taken the lead in his sixth attempt to become president. The incumbent, Edgar Lungu, is trailing behind by hundreds of thousands of votes. The final results are expected in the next few days. At least 28 people have been killed in a fuel explosion in northern Lebanon. Angry residents have been gathering at the scene in Akkar. They've now set fire to a number of vehicles. A bus crash in Hungary's capital has left 8 people dead and dozens injured. The bus tipped over after returning to Budapest from Croatia. Lots more news, including the latest out of Kabul and Afghanistan, on our website, aljazeera.com. Up next, my Nigeria. I'll have the news hour after that. See you then.
My Nigeria is full of hustle and bustle. My Nigeria is aggressive. My Nigeria says yes to every no. Hello? Okay, I'm on my way. My name is Kate Henshaw. I am an actress. I have been in the film industry, tagged Nollywood, for over 21 years. I have decided now to run for office in my state, Cross River State, for a seat in the House of Representatives, representing Calabar South, Akpabuyo, and Bakassi Federal Constituency. 4, 6, 3, 4. It's only me. Oh, wow. Okay. How are you? Who I do it to? Ooh. It's with confidence I enter here. Okay, well, let's go. I'm preparing for the closing ceremony of the African Film Festival, which happens every year in Tinapa for 1 week. Filmmakers across the globe come together for workshops, training, talking about distribution. So the closing ceremony is tonight at the Cultural Center in Calabar. So I'm getting ready. I don't like eyebrows that look painted on. You look like a witch. As an actor, I've always been in the forefront, fighting for different causes that I feel I'm passionate about. I feel that with who I am, my status and my name, I should be able to speak out. And I really care about people, and I want to serve. I want to show that there is a way to do things, that people can actually trust public servants and that they will deliver on the promises that they promise. Why is he stopping me? Okay, can we go straight? Looking forward to my first red carpet event in 3 months or so, because since I started this race, this journey into politics, I've not had time for anything entertainment. Don't leave home without this touch of powder.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the fourth edition. Of the Africa International Film Festival right here in the nation's paradise, Calabar, Cross River State.
People are really intrigued. They want to know why am I going to politics. I'm not taking it lightly. It's not been easy on me, both spiritually, physically, mentally. I've lost weight. I'm not eating right because I'm thinking a lot, if this is going to work. But I've sort of made up my mind, like, whether it works or not, I'm in it. I'm going to stay the course. Okay, we're going to stop by the petrol station. I need to fill up my tank. Then we have to go to the bank before we go to the office. I have some appointment. I think the first appointment is for 12 or so. Is that the driver?
In the office, there in the office. Why didn't you call?
He was here earlier. Ask him why he drove off without letting me know.
Okay, wait there in the office. Wait there in the office.
Okay, let's roll, people. You have the key? Okay, I'm gone. Petrol. Calabar was one of the ports for slave trade. And the name Henshaw is from our slave masters. You're given your master's name. And I've always been asked questions, Kate Henshaw, where are you from? Are you British? Are you American? I'm like, no, I'm Nigerian. Kate Henshaw? I'm like, yes, but I'm Ofyong Kate Henshaw. Ofyong is my native name, my Cross Riverian name, and it means the moon. Sammy, good morning. Is my office open? My main strategy is, one thing I would say is they know about me because I'm from this state, but they don't know me politically. But I know about people. I know that you give people the basics and they'll be just happy. But then you need to go ahead and do more. Make their lives comfortable, the children, leave behind a legacy. So that is my strategy, telling them that I'm trustworthy, I have integrity, and I really do care about doing the right thing. Oh no. Sorry, my phone has been on silent since. You too. On Friday, I met with some ward chairmen that have delegates. I'm even meeting, there's somebody coming with some delegates here today for Calabar South. I have a list of all the delegates because I know fake people are around. They can be fronting as delegates when they are not.
This is the stamp one from...
Yeah,
and this
from National.
This is handwritten.
No. This is authentic.
All the names you have there are the name I have.
Yeah, I know. This is authentic. So I have my own list as well.
100%. I can only bring you 15. My 15, which I know I control.
Who are the 15?
From here.
11, 12. Okay.
Those are the people
I need a photocopy, front and back of it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've not forgotten. Oh, Lord.
I am Emmanuel Williamson. I am of Young Kate Ensure Chief Security Officer. I ensure peace and tranquility wherever we go to. I push most of my men in the midst of the crowd to listen to conversation so that we can ensure that I have information to be able down to protect the aspirant or the candidate. Because during campaign like this, an opponent might try to do something or might send some people to come in and try to see how they can drill their opponent.
I wasn't like this. I had a very large tummy, and I was so fat that I couldn't breathe well. But today, I'm doing things the right way. You got me now? Yeah. His name is Vasi, and is my second in command. He also works with of Young Kate Ensure.
She's a movie star. And see, a lot of people want to snap with her. A lot of people want to come around. A lot of them see her as their mentor. And you don't know who is who, so you need to protect.
Yeah, it's not easy. No pain, no gain. And me, I need the pain so I can gain.
Come on, count. Who is this one? Running for office has cost me a lot financially in terms of my job. I had to let go of a huge project where I was highly sought for, to play the lead role. And it was for a soap that was going to run for a year. This book was actually a gift from a friend, but I didn't know when I wanted to actually do a diary of my experiences in the political field, but it's all ingrained here. But now I decided to use this as my expenses book. It's my red book, because I intend to make a book out of this whole process. If really and truly you don't have money, you can't do politics in Nigeria. You cannot.
Amen. Blessings and glory, wisdom, thanksgiving, and all, power and might be unto the Lord forever and ever. Amen.
This gathering is for a lady that I've come to know.